Hey there, we're talking about, I guess, splitting up our purple fountain grass. We have several of these still sitting around in pots. We've already used some of them. And all I did, and I'll show you some pictures or a short video of what we had. I mean, these were out in our landscape in several areas prior to the winter months here in the Dallas area. And they don't winter over that well. So what I usually do in the fall is I'll just go around and dig these up. And in this case, this was, I don't know, 4 or 5 total that were in our landscape. And I just dug them up, put them all in a pot. This little one was actually, I think it was 2 different ones. But we wintered them over in our little hobby greenhouse that we have. And then in the spring, what I like to do is come in here, and I'll show you some of that here in a minute, but every one of these can be split up and turned into a new individual plant, if you will, and they'll do great. You can see here, there's quite a few of them down in here, but I'm just going to show you what we do with that. And then I'll give you some pictures too. We've done this in previous years, and we've gone ahead and split them up immediately after we've dug them up and put them into smaller pots like this and put them in the greenhouse and let them winter over. And then in the spring, they just come back, full force, and they turn into beautiful, the purple fountain grasses that they are. So we've got several different types of grasses in our landscape, but we found out that this is one that doesn't come back. And yeah, sure, we could go, to a local nursery or whatever and buy new ones of these, but we decided to try this, and it seems to work quite well. We use these both in the ground in different areas in our landscape, and then we also use them in different pots, like out by the pool and other places like that. And they haven't gotten huge this year, but I'll put some pictures of how they look later in the season, and they're just amazing how they look. So what I like to do, and I'll just go ahead and start with this one. We have our little work table here. Just go ahead and take them back out of the pot that they've wintered over in. And you can see here there's quite a bit of roots. But I mean, that's 2 different plants right there that we can work with. And I'm gonna start on this one. And let's see here. So most of this one looks like it may be dead, and that's fine. But what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and start, and I've got a Hori knife, and it's a multi-tool. I'll put a link in the description. I really like this because it's a blade on one side, it's serrated on the other, and I can use it in the landscape, and it doesn't get rusty or anything like that. You just have to kind of, start cutting and start working, and you can just kind of see there. And then we'll get this extra dirt off of here. So now we could just keep this as one if we wanted to, but you can see right here, there's still several plants in here that we could use, and we can just dig off this dead stuff like that and get it out. That might come back, but it's not showing much green growth or anything like that on this side, so we're probably just going to toss that out. But this here, just in a month's time, a little bit of fertilizer and some water would turn into a beautiful plant. And for today, because I'm not going to put these immediately in the landscape or plant them up in some pots. I'm just going to go ahead and I put just a little bit of grow mix in one of my, I guess it's a pint pot, maybe 4-inch, I don't know. And we're just going to take it and kind of put it down in there with some of the dirt, and then here in a little bit we'll water it. But this is just to kind of temporarily hold it over, because you don't want the roots and everything to dry out. But that'll work, and that's going to be a beautiful purple fountain grass, you know, either out in our landscape or in a pot up on the patio or somewhere like that. And there's no reason to, you know, have to go buy new ones every year, because this one, you know, this is perfect to do this. And then probably all of this is no longer viable. It looks like all of those roots are probably dead. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that back in that pot that it all came in, and I'll end up putting all of that back in my compost. I'm going to keep some of this extra soil here in case I need it for some of the other temporary pots, just while I'm, you know, getting ready to split it up. So I think you can see this one, and this one is just numerous plants that are in here that could be split. So I'm just going to get like a grouping of them and kind of hold them apart, and take my knife, and you can use anything. I've got some cutters that I use specifically for working in the dirt. I still keep them sharp, and I clean them. I put on WD-40 and things like that, or oil them after I've used them and keep them. But I have these in my little tool bag, and I keep them specifically for dirt work or for cutting roots like this if need be. But I've found that I really like this serrated edge Hori knife for doing this kind of work. And all we're doing is just, you know, separating these up into more viable plants. And you can see that it's got quite a few good roots. And really, we could go ahead and split this into, you know, 2 more. In fact, why don't we go ahead and do that just to show you. Just go ahead and cut those apart. You're not going to hurt anything. You may think that you are, but you're not. And just go ahead and work those apart. And you can take off any dead or anything like that. And even though that's a pretty tiny one, it's got viable roots and viable stem and everything. That'll turn into a huge, beautiful purple fountain grass. And then here's another one. So we're just going to go ahead and do the rest of these and kind of show you what it is that we're doing. Again, I'm just putting them in some temporary pots before I take them and put them out in the landscape in several areas. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing this, and it's not, you know, a huge amount of work, and they're ready, and, you know, they'll look pretty, and you have them available to you to put out in your landscape whenever you want them. And again, this one, you know, there's not a whole lot to it right now, but just give it a chance. Give it a little bit of tone fertilizer starter, and put it in the ground or put it in a pot, and you'll be surprised the end result and how pretty these things are. And I love to just, you know, kind of sit around on a windy afternoon and just kind of watch the fronds blow in the wind, and it just, you know, it's kind of mesmerizing. And then these are just beautiful in the landscape anyway, just like kind of like native grasses or what have you. Got a snail here. So again, there's quite a few here, and we could keep splitting these, you know, as many times as you want. And what I did last year is I split them up, and I think before I realized it, I had like maybe 40 of these things, and it was way too many for what we needed. So, you know, I let everybody in the family know that I had some that wanted some, and they all got some, and then I think we gave some to the different neighbors and things like that. But it's a simple process, and there's no reason to go buy new ones, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, and you certainly can, but this is just so simple. So yep, there's another one. And you can pull off, or you can take your cutters or whatever you have to use and get rid of some of this dead. If you don't want to see that brown, that's fine. Just trim it out of there. Nothing wrong with that. But again, this will be a beautiful plant when it takes off. I'm just going to lay it over to the side for now until we get some of these other ones split up a little more. I think that's going to be one. I've even seen some people, I tried it last year, they'll take this entire plant and soak it in a bucket of water, and it kind of worked for loosening up the soil and everything, but I still had to end up cutting the roots apart. So I just prefer this way and slicing it, and you're not hurting anything, you're not stunning its growth. Again, there's some dead that I'm just going to take and snip off. We don't necessarily want to see that dead in our pots around in our landscape, but that's all. And it's really, if you wanted to, you could split that into 3 different plants right there and it would be fine. So I think for now, I'm just going to go ahead and split this one into 2. And again, you can see here how they come apart. So that's the dead. I'm just going to chunk that. But this one here, there's probably 4 in there that we could use, but I'm just going to keep that intact and let that be put out in our landscape. I mean, that's even one right there. You can see the tiny roots on right here. So you could certainly keep that, put it in a pot, let it grow, put it out in the landscape, and before you know it, it would be amazing. And then here, same thing. I'm just going to do a little bit of cleanup and get this brown dead off of here. You could pull it off if you wanted to. I'm just going to trim it. Like, here's one right here that's trying to fall out. Anyway, you get the idea. I hope this helps. It's just something, we love to do. Why not recycle, repurpose these things? If you can catch them before they freeze in the winter, if you're in an area that, the conditions are harsh, you can certainly, winter these over. You might be able to cover them out in the landscape. I don't know. We've never tried doing that. I've always just dug them up and thrown them in a pot, and they've done fine. I just wanted to see how this one looks. Again, it looks like it's probably at least, I'm going to probably make this one into 2. It could be a lot more if I wanted to. But I still want it to have, some size left. So this one's a little bit tough down in there. I'm just going to take my cutters and just kind of snip those roots, and that did the job right there. So I'm gonna call this 1, even though it's probably 4 or 5 in there. And in the same way with this one, I'm going to call that 1 when I put it in the ground. I've got a couple of areas out front of our house that I think we need some tall plants in, some taller plants. All right, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have comments or suggestions, or if you've done this and what your results were. Appreciate you stopping by the channel.